Hi guys, and welcome back to Aisha.Academy. So in today's video, I'll be going through the number and ratio higher calculator paper. I've done the non-calculator number and ratio higher one already on the channel. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the first question just says 1A, use your calculator to write down all the figures on your calculator display. So literally you just have to put in this whole formula into your calculator. And when you do that, you should be left with an answer of 157.668254993198. So literally you just have to, when it says all the figures, you write down all the figures. Okay, and then on to part B, it says write your answer to part A correct to four significant figures. So remember, the difference between decimal places and significant figures is that significant figures includes all the numbers. So in terms of four significant figures, let's focus on the first five numbers, including the ones after the decimal place. I've got 157.66. So if I wanted to write that to four significant figures, I would round that to 157.7. And then I wouldn't need to put a zero on the end, because if I put a zero on the end, then that is to five significant figures. So that would be my final answer. Then having a look at question 2, it says write 37 centimeters cube in millimeters cube. First off, we know that to go from 1 centimeter, that is equivalent to 10 millimeters. So if you convert in 1 centimeters cubed, so to cube 1, if you were to cube 10, you would get 1,000 millimeters cubed. So we know that, therefore, 1 centimeters cubed is equivalent to 1,000 millimeters cubed. So if you've got 37 centimeters cubed, you would do 37 times 1,000, and because it's calculator paper, you can just put it in your calculator, and that would give you 37,000 millimeters cubed. Okay, moving on to question 3. It says Carlo puts tins into small boxes and into large boxes. He puts 6 tins into each small box, and he puts 20 tins into each large box. Carlo puts a total of 6,000 tins into the boxes, so that the number of tins in the small boxes as a ratio to the number of tins in large boxes is 2 to 3. So it says that Carlo says that there are less than 30% of the boxes filled with tins are large boxes. So, is Carlo right? Well, first off, the ratio is for every two tins in a small box, you've got 3 tins. So to work out one part of that, well, the first thing is we're going to add the two numbers in the ratio together to give us 5. So let's say we now do the total number of tins divided by the total number of the ratio. In your calculator, that should leave you with 600. So now that means that out of any time that you have 5 tins, 2 of them would be in a small box, 3 of them would be in a large box. So this is equivalent to one part of the ratio. Because we always say that each number in a ratio is by parts. So to work out the total number of tins that you would have in small boxes, you would do 600 times 2. Because 2 is the number representing the number of tins in the small boxes, for 3 tins in a large box. That would leave you with 1,200. And if you did 600 times 3, you would get 1,800. So that 1,200 is the number of tins in the small boxes. Total number of tins in small. Wow, this is terrible handwriting. We're going to rewrite that again. And then last bit is, so it says that you've got 6 tins in each small box. Now we need to actually work out how many small boxes we have. So you're going to do the total number in small boxes divided by 6. And in your calculator, that should leave you with an answer of 200. So now we know that there are 200 small boxes. To work out the number of large boxes, you would do 1,800 divided by 20, and that would leave you with an answer of 90. So then now it says that less than 30% of the boxes filled with tins are large boxes. So to work out our total number of boxes, it's the 200 plus 90, which is 290. So we have 290 boxes in total. So now, in order to work out how many of them in terms of a ratio, proportion, or percentage are large boxes, we do 90 over 290 times 100. And in your calculator, that would leave you with an answer of 31.03. So that would round to 31%. 31.03% is not less than 30. So is not less than 30%. Therefore, Carlo is wrong. Carlo. Don't know why I said it like that. Carlo is wrong. Okay, so moving on to question 4. So it says Rhea buys a van for 8,500 plus VAT at 20%, and basically she pays a deposit for the van, and then it shows that she then pays the rest of the cost in 12 equal payments of £531.25 each month. So we need to find the ratio of the deposit Rhea pays at the total of 12 equal payments. So we're trying to find out. So first of all, in order to do that, we need to work out how much of the deposit she actually paid. So what we can do is that it says that she pays £531.25 a month for 12 equal months. So to work out the total of the 12 equal months in your calculator, you would put £531.25 times 12, and that should leave you with an answer of £6,375. So it's ratio of deposit to total. I've just shortened it for D&T. So we've got 6,375 for the total over the 12 months. So then to work out her deposit, bear in mind it says her van costs £8,500 plus VAT at 20%. So we need to add 20% of 8,500 onto that price. So a quick way of doing that is I'll show you both ways. So you could either literally do 8,500 divided by 100 times by 20 and add that on to the 8,500, or you could just do 8,500 times 1.2. Because that's also the same way of working that out. So if you did 8,500 times 1.2, you'd be left with an answer of 10,200. So then now we know that 10,200 is the actual total. To work out her deposit, we're going to do the 10,200, take away how much she was paying for the total of the 12 equal payments, which was 6,375. That would leave you with 3,825. So then now we know the deposit price. So then now in regards to a ratio, to simplify the ratio, in your calculator, if you put in 3,825 over 6,375, see what you would get. So this is another way of a method of simplifying ratios. If you can't easily see numbers to deal with, the best way then is to literally just divide the number on the left by the number on the right. So if you did that, you'd be left with 0.6. And 0.6 is the same as saying 3 out of 5. So that's another way of working out. Or you could have just kept dividing them by numbers. Like, for instance, you could have kept dividing by 5, divided by 5, or whatever you feel like is a common factor to simplify it the most. So the most simplified form of this ratio is a 3 to 5 ratio. And then question 5 is basically saying that the density of ethanol is 1.08 and the density of propylene is 0.97. And this is 60 liters of ethanol are mixed with 128 liters of propylene to make 188 liters of antifreeze. So it wants us to work out the density of the antifreeze. So in order to work out the density of the antifreeze, we're going to be using the triangle density and then mass over volume. So total density is what we're trying to work out. Mass, we do not know the total mass of both the ethanol and propylene. And volume, we actually could work out the total volume of the ethanol and propylene. So it tells us that 60 liters of ethanol is added and 128 liters of propylene is added. Put that into your calculator, you get 208 liters. Now, I know this may confuse some people because you're seeing liters and not centimeters cubed, but 1 liter is equal to 1,000 centimeters cubed. So by knowing that unit conversion, we could be able to work out the volume of this question. So now, to work out this in centimeters cubed, we would do 208 times 1,000, and that would leave you with 208,000 centimeter cubed. So now we know the total volume, we need to work out the total mass. In order to work out the total mass, what we can do is work out their individual masses and add them together. So let's look at for ethanol. So using the triangle, it's basically saying that mass is equal to density times volume. So for ethanol, the density is 1.09. The volume is, well, it's 60 liters, but if you did 60 times 1,000, you get 60,000. So that times 60,000 would leave you with a total mass of, so 60,000 times 1.09, 65,400 grams. So now for propylene, it will be 0.97 times, so it was 128,000, so that times by 1,000 would give us 128,000. And in your calculator, that would leave you with 128,000 times 0.97 leaves you with 124,160 grams. Okay, so now we have their total, well, their individual masses. To work out the total masses, we will just add those masses together. And that would leave us with an answer of 189,560 grams. So now we know the total mass, we know the total volume, the total density would therefore be 0.91, and because it wants to do decimal places, that would round to 0.91 grams per centimeter cubed. And that's that final answer. Okay, so moving on to question 6, it says Katie invests 200,000 into a savings account for the next 4 years. For 4 years, the account pays compound interest at a rate of 1.5% per annum, and we need to work out the total amount of interest Katie will get at the end of the 4 years. So, first things first, she initially invests 200,000. Then, because her rate is 1.5%, I think I mentioned this in another another assessment, but basically a shortcut of working out compound interest is the percentage that you're giving with, divide by 100 and add that on to 1. So by doing that in your calculator, that would leave you with 1.015. So then multiply the initial value by that, and then your number to the power of that number depends on how many years you were saving for. So if it's for 4 years, it will be to the power of 4. And in your calculator, you would get an answer of, well, because we're dealing with money, you only really want it to 2 decimal places. So 212 point, sorry, that's not a point, 212,272,000.71 pence. And then, because now you want to actually work out the total amount of interest she gained, you would then do the answer that you just got in your calculator minus the initial value she received. And so this would just be how much interest she gained over 4 years. Okay, so moving on to question 7. So it says ABC and EDC are straight lines. I think I've done this question so many times now, but it says E to A is parallel to DB. And it says that E to C is 8.1 centimeters, and then D to C is just 5.4, and then it says D to B is 2.6, and it says it wants us to work out the length of A to E. So when it comes to similarity of lengths, I always like to draw out the 2 separate shapes if they've drawn them within each other. So we've got shape, the big one, and then we've got the little one that was within. Okay, so we know the length B to D, which was 2.6, E to C, which was 8.1, and we know D to C, which was 5.4. So in terms of now working out, we need to work out the common, not the common factor, sorry, the scale factor. So in order to work out the scale factor, to go from the big shape to the little shape, we would have to do 8.1 over 5.4. And in your calculator, that'll give you, 1.5. And I mean to go from the big shape to the little shape. So usually to work out the scale factor, I would always do the bigger number divided by the smaller one. So then that would give me 1.5. So that means that any length on the small shape, I would multiply it by 1.5 to give me lengths on the bigger shape. So it wants us to work out the length AE. And AE is proportional to BD. We know that BD is 2.6, so to work out what AE is, we would multiply that value by 1.5, and in your calculator, that would leave you with an answer of 3.9 centimeters. Then moving on to part B, it says A to C is 6.15, and it says it wants us to work out the length AB. So our A to C is 6.15. So to work out what that would be on its equivalent little length, BC, over here, we would do 6.15 divided by 1.5. And in our calculator, that would leave us with an answer of 4.1. So if we know that B to C is 4.1, the whole length is 6.15. To work out what A to B is, we're just going to take them away from each other. So it would be 6.15, take away 4.1, and that would leave you with 2.05. Okay, then moving on to question number 8. So it says the points A, B, C, D lie on a straight line. A, B, C, D. Then it says the ratio from A to B and then B to D is a 1 to 5 ratio. So I call that 1. 5. And then from A to C, 7, and C to D, that's 11. I know these are not drawn exactly to scale, but it's just easier to draw out so you can help visualize to answer the question. So now it says it wants us to work out the ratio from A to B, B to C, and C to D. So we know that A to B is 1. We know that C to D is 11, but we don't really know from B to C. So we can work this out. So how we can do this is that if it says, first of all, we're going to add the parts together. So the 1 plus 5 is equal 6, and then the 11 plus 7 is equal to 18. So we want to make them equivalent to each other. So we'll multiply the 6 by 3, and that would give them both 18, which means all these parts would be multiplied by 3 as well. So that would leave us with 3, and that would leave us with 15. So now that we have that, we know that A to C is 7, right? But we also do know that C to D is 11. So how we can work this out is, if we were to do our A to C length, take away our A to B length, we would be able to work out our B to C length. And so if our A to C is 7, take away the 3 for A to B, 7 take away 3 is equal to 4. So we know that B to C is equal to 4. So now that we know what B to C is equivalent to, so A to B with our new values was 3. B to C was 4. And C to D was just still 11. And that's it. And then you can just show this A to B, B to C, C to D. Okay. So moving on to question 9. So it says there are 16 hockey teams in the league, and it says each team plays 2 matches against each of the other teams. So it wants us to work out the total number of matches played. So if each team, so one team, plays 2 matches against each other team, we need to work this out bit by bit. So first of all, let's say you have, I don't know, team 1. So let's say if you, wow, I cannot spell team today. If you have team 1, realistically, to play each other team at least once, let's just say at least 1 match each, they would play at least 15 matches. But for team 2, I also cannot spell team again. Embarrassing. So for team 2, they would play also 15 matches, but because one of the matches between team 1 and team 2 has already been counted here, it would be 14 matches. So why have I written this out? Because I'm not going to write all of them, no. But I'm just showing you that basically, as you keep going down each number, the total will reduce because their matches would have already been included in the values above. So because you're dealing with 16 teams, you're going to end up doing 15 plus 14 plus 13 plus 12 plus 11 plus 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. So you're going to add them all together. And by adding that all together into your calculator, you would get 120 matches in total for every team to play each other at least once. But because they're playing 2 matches against each other, you're going to have that happen again. So just multiply that by 2 in your calculator, and that would leave you with 240 matches in total. Okay, so moving on to question 10, it says that there are some small cubes and some large cubes in this box. Sorry, in a bag. And it says the cubes are red or yellow. So it's given us ratios for the small number of cubes to a large number of cubes and a ratio for red cubes to yellow cubes. So it says explain why the least possible number of cubes in the bag is 88. Well, if we have a look, it's simply because if you add the 2 ratios of the 4 and the 7 together, you get a total of 11. If you add the ratios of the 3 and the 5, you get an 8. But in order to work out the minimum number, you would essentially have to work out the lowest common multiple between 11 and 8. And so the lowest common multiple between 11 and 8 is 88. Because, first of all, 11 is a prime number, so there's nothing else we can do on the prime number tree. But in terms of 88, you can get 11 times 8. 8 can split off into 4 and 2. And then 4 can split off into 2 and 2. And so the only one to, when you work out your lowest common multiple, the numbers that they share in common go in the middle. So 11 is just 11, because that's all they share in common. And then 88 has an extra 2, 2, 3 twos. And remember, lowest common multiple is you multiply all the numbers in the Venn diagram together. So it's just 2 times 2 times 2 times 11, which gives you an answer of 88. So it's simply because the lowest common multiple between 11 and 88 is, 11 and 8 is 88. So it says that all the small cubes are yellow. So it wants us to work out the least possible number of large cubes in the bag. So because we know that 8 is the minimum number within the bag, what we can do is because it's a 4 to 7 ratio for small to large, and we added that together, that gave us 11. If you did 11 times 8, you get 88. So multiply both parts in that ratio by 8. You would end up with 32 to 56. So now that we have that, that is telling us that if we have the least number of cubes, 88, out of 88 cubes, 56 of them would be large and 32 of them would be small. So in order now to work this out, so if it says that all the small cubes are yellow, then that means 32 of the cubes are yellow. Okay, now the ratio from red to yellow is a 3 to 5 ratio, but that's a total of 8. So you have to multiply that 11 on both sides of the ratios. That was from red to yellow. So multiply them both by 11, that gives you 33 to 55. So that means that 55 out of the total can be yellow. Will have to be yellow if you have a total of 88. So if we know that out of 88, 55 of them are yellow, and we know that all the small ones are yellow, so that's already 32 small ones. And to work out the large yellow ones, the least possible number, it would be 55 take away 32. And in your calculator, that would leave you with 23 large yellow cubes. And I hope that makes sense. Okay, so moving on to question 11, it says that there are 3 solid shapes, A, B, and C, and they are similar. So it says the surface area for shape A is 4 centimeters squared, and it says the surface area for shape B is 25 centimeters squared. So it just says 3 solid shapes, doesn't it? It doesn't really give us an indication. So I'm just going to draw cubes, because cubes are nice shapes. A, B, C. Okay, so surface area for A is 4, for B is 25, and it says the ratio of the volume of B to C is a 27 to 64 centimeters cubed ratio. It says it wants us to work out the ratio of the height of shape A to shape C. Ooh, okay. Okay, so first thing that we can do is, we know the volume ratio. So we know volume, right? So what we can do is cube root these numbers. So by doing that, you would get a 3 to. So then now we need to work out the ratio from A to B. So if we're dealing with surface area, we know that area we would have to, so 4 to 25. With area, you need to square root. So square root of 4 is 2, square root of 25 is 5. So then now we know from A to B, it's a 2 to 5 ratio. But from B to C, it's a 3 to 4 ratio. So the common factor between 5 and 3 is 15. So I'm going to multiply this ratio by 3, multiply this one by 5. That would leave us with 6 to 15, 15 to 20. And so now we can put them all together. And if we put them all together, that would be a 6 to 15 to 20 ratio, but we can actually simplify. No, we cannot simplify this any further. But what we can do is, because the question only wants the ratio from A to C, so A to C is 6 to 20, and that we can simplify that. We can divide both sides by 2, and that would leave us with 3 to 10 ratio. Okay. And then having a look at question 12, it says that this is a distance time graph and it wants us to use the graph to estimate the speed of the car at the time 5 seconds. So we know that the triangle speed equals distance divided by time. So speed will be our gradient. So at 5 seconds, if we go across, okay, so at 5 seconds, we can see that roughly the distance is 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 5 little squares for 20, so then 20 divided by 5 is 4. Okay, so it's about 28 meters. So then 28 divided by 5 in our calculator, it gives us 5.6 meters per second. And that's us using the graph to estimate. Okay, so on to question 13. It says the number of rabbits on the farm at the end of the month is Pn. So it says the number of rabbits at the end of the month is given by Pn plus 1, okay, and it says at the end of March there were 200 rabbits on the farm. So it wants us to work out how many rabbits there will be on the farm at the end of June. So if at the end of March there's 200, then at the end of April, so April would be 1.2 times 200 minus 50. And at the end of May, there would be 1.2 times 190 minus 50. And then at the end of June, so at the end of June, we've got this. So realistically, there would be 163 rabbits by the end of June. So you wouldn't round up because you can't round up a part of a rabbit, if that makes sense. So there would be 163 by the end of June. So, moving on to part B, it says consider your results in part A and suggest what will happen to the number of rabbits on the farm after a long time. Well, as we can see, the number of rabbits are reducing each time, but then also we can see that the amount that it's reducing each time, I'd say, is becoming slightly more. So, we'd say that the number of rabbits are still will and they will eventually go completely. Um, okay, so then we have question 14, which says D is equal to 8C cubed. So it says C is equal to 10.9, and it wants us to use suitable degree of accuracy to work out the value of D. So upper bound, lower bounds. Okay, so first things first. So this one's quite a nice one because it's just involving one letter that we're going to have to change the bounds of. So if we have our C, so C could be anywhere between 10.85 for the upper bound, and then the lower bound, upper bound is 10.95, lower bound is 10.85. Okay, so now that we have the upper bound, we have the lower bound. Literally, we're going to work out the upper bound of D, which will be an eighth of 10.95 cubed. And in your calculator, so 10.95 cubed times an eighth is 164.11654. And then for the lower bound of D, it will be an eighth times 10.85 cubed. Now leave you with 159.661140. Now, as we can see, between the two answers, there's a tiny bit of a difference. So in order to work out a suitable degree of accuracy, personally, we can round 159.66 to 160, and this can be rounded down to 160 as well. So I'd say D, to a suitable degree of accuracy, would be 160. 3 significant figures. So as this is the upper bound and lower bound rounded to 3 significant figures. And I think that's a very suitable answer for that. So yeah, that's basically the end of this paper. So I hope this was useful and thanks for watching.